Hello everyone, Rexar here, and welcome to the Advanced Combat Training of Thunder Tier 1. So most of the basic things you learned from a standard tactical first-person shooter game are going to be very applicable here. Things like cover and hide when reloading, throw a smoke on an open area you need to cross, suppressive fire, teamwork elements, all of that. However, this is not a first-person shooter, it's a top-down game, and we are going to dive deep into how to play better with this view. Most of the things I'm about to share here with you, I learned in the PvP, but they are absolutely valid for PvE as well. So first things first, let's talk about the aiming. Wherever you aim is where you shoot. This might sound silly and obvious, however, compared to an FPS game, aiming only a couple of pixels in another direction on my screen can make the character shoot somewhere completely else. A perfect example would be shooting this light here. Observe how my character looks in front of him to aim at the enemy, and then he aims at the light above him. Also observe how much does my crosshair spread, because in my character's reality, he had to swing his weapon a lot, which decreases his accuracy for some time. Let's look at another example. An opponent is here to my left, and he is rendered fully because if my character sees any part of enemy, it renders the whole character completely. However, because of the view, I can see opponent's parts that my character couldn't. I might aim at him and shoot, but not hit him. That's because I'm shooting at his leg, which my character cannot see. Between my gun and the enemy part I'm shooting at is an obstacle. This learning brings us to a whole set of tips. Use caps lock, zoom in, and always have front of your character on the top of your screen. Let's have a deeper look at each of them separately. Clicking caps lock switches between the two camera views, a full top-down view and more of a frontal view. As you can see, in the default top-down view, I see more of my surroundings. And this is a better choice if you're expecting enemies to start coming from all the sides. If I look behind, or any side really, the camera pans to that side as well. If I use caps lock to switch into more of a frontal view, I lose this ability to look behind myself or see more on the sides. However, the camera angle changes closer to looking over the shoulder of the character. This makes it much easier to hit the opponents, as they are no longer just a couple of pixels seen from top, but a bit more pixels seen from a crooked angle. From top-down view, if you are aiming at an opponent's head, but you miss just a little to another side, you will start shooting the ground next to him. But having the frontal view, you can see more of his body, and aiming at his chest, but missing, will most likely just result in hitting his head or shoulders or stomach. They simply become bigger targets, which means easier to hit. Frontal view also helps us to understand the surroundings better, what is in cover and what is not. By the way, it also helps you see into buildings much better. Zooming in and out. Pretty simple. You have 3 stages of being zoomed in. I usually zoom in once to switch into the second stage when I'm not using a scope, which we will talk about later. It works more of an enhancement to previously mentioned camera views. Zooming in again makes the target in front of you bigger and easier to hit, or aim at a specific body part, because headshots matter, we will talk about that later too. But you do lose some more of your side view. And that brings us to the third one, which is always have your character facing the top of your screen. Use Q and E keys to rotate the camera. This helps us avoiding situations like shooting opponent's part that is in cover. We are basically trying to get as close as possible to the first person view. All these 3 tools make it easier to understand what is in cover and easier to hit our target. And yes, it is a trade-off, but it is just so worth it. I found myself much more effective in the PvP using these techniques. And the fact I lost my rear view, I really never got into trouble because of that. It all comes to your awareness. You can still turn around with Q and E, you can communicate with your team about where the enemy is, you learn to expect where the opponents are, you can position yourself close to a wall so that no one can come from behind, you can have one person watching your backs, and of course, you can always switch back to the top-down view for a specific situation. That's why the developers kept it optional. If one option was better in all scenarios, they would only keep that one. But the frontal view is not the best for absolutely every situation. Let me show you one example in which I would switch back to top-down view. If I would be about to cross a gate like this, and I'm expecting two of my opponents on the opposite sides, I would probably switch back to top-down view so I can turn the camera in a manner so I'm going down and not up. This way, I can see better what is behind the wall, and I can quickly switch from the guy on my right to the guy on my left. However, if I would only expect one enemy on one side, for example in expel mode where only last opponent is alive and last seen he was on left side, I would still use the forward zoom in and peek him this way. It gives me bigger chance of winning the fight. Now let's talk about the scopes. When I first tried the scope on a gun, I didn't really like it, but I felt how strong it must be since it makes your line of sight bigger in the direction you are looking at. After playing with it for some half an hour, I really started to get a hang of it. And let me tell you, it is the current meta. If you find yourself walking down a corridor and aiming in front of you, and then you just die without seeing an opponent, then you most likely just got killed from a scoped, silenced gun. So how the scopes work is, you see the zoomed in scope when aiming down your weapon through right click, and also you can see the line of sight is bigger in the direction I'm looking at. So it is absolutely perfect for corridors, but it is also strong on open areas. You just have to act like you're a lighthouse and look all around you. Kind of like scan your surroundings to make the line of sight bigger in multiple directions and not only one. Beware, your aim gets worse when swinging your weapon like this. Sometimes the scope is black and white. This indicates what you're currently aiming at cannot be hit. Don't worry, it's just the fact that technically you are aiming at the ground and there might be an obstacle. But if an enemy would appear there, then you would see him and aiming at him will make the scope colored again because you are aiming higher. During shooting at an opponent, the scope can go black and white often because of the recoil making you aim at a different spot. It is the same with this line here, showing you what you can shoot. It shows me I can't hit what I'm aiming at, but it's due to me having low ground, being ducked down, and aiming at the ground. Again, if an enemy would appear there, I would see him and could shoot at him if aiming higher than his feet. This is also why being ducked down is not as good as people think. If you are sneaking and want to be more quiet, or you want your first shot to be more accurate, ducking down is good. But if an open fire, it's better to stand up and have the barrel of the gun higher. Here, you can see not changing my aim, but only stand. When I duck down, I can't hit my opponent because of the cover, but only standing up, making him a bigger target already. This is of course connected to having high ground as such, because it negates a lot of enemy cover. You can get really creative with some high ground angles sometimes. Enemies will not expect you in such positions as well. But don't forget, climbing up high is also giving up on your own cover. In Thunder Tier 1, it matters where you shoot your enemy. Headshots, body shots, shooting opponent's feet, all that matters. Add to that different types of armor, different guns do different damage to these armors, and some guns also have choice of different ammo types. Usually a better penetration one that does more damage to better armors but less damage to lower or no armors. I'm not going to go deep into each gun and ammo type and armor, but let me tell you, the Val is now the meta, since it does almost the Sage damage to no armor, armor type 2A and armor type 3A. 2 body shots to kill. So if you know you are playing against full Vals on opposing teams, it's better to either fully get rid of armor so you're faster, or go for armor type 4. Let me just show you some quick test we did with an Uzi against a person with no armor and armor type 4. Uzi drops a person with no armor in 2 shots, but with armor type 4 it takes 19 shoots to kill him. That's because Uzi's default ammo type does pretty good against no armor, but goes down significantly with each armor type as seen here. You can choose the other ammo type that penetrates armors better, but does worse against no armor. By the way, you can choose to have both ammo types in your loadout, bring a couple of penetrating and non-penetrating mags and choose it on the battlefield. Here is an Uzi killing opponent in 1 shot in the head with no helmet, and 2 shots in the head with helmet. Now if you run the same test with M4, it is 2 body shots to kill with no armor. 6 body shots to kill with armor type 4. However, it takes 2 headshots to kill even without a helmet. Also 2 headshots to kill with a helmet. Note, this was tested on helmet type 1 because we don't have others unlocked yet. Now, this all makes sense if you look at the weapon stats again. Uzi simply performs much better against no armored targets, but drops off significantly with adding armor. Unlike M4, that performs worse against no armor, but doesn't drop damage so much with adding armor. It is much more of a universal choice. So this should help us even more to realize why it is so important to use the caps lock, zoom in, and use Q and E to always have our target in front of us. Hit those headshots, they matter. It is also easy to spot if an opponent has a helmet, so if you are going through a sneaky co-op mission, it will be an indicator for you on how many shots will it take to drop him down, depending on the gun you have. You can also spot if an opponent has armor or not. Realizing what type of armor is a bit more difficult, but also possible. Learning all of this in the PvP, but then going back into PvE missions, was both much more enjoyable for me and I performed better. Now, just a couple of words on why I'm actually making this tutorial. I absolutely love this game and would love for it to have at least some small competitive scene. Either ranked mode or couple of teams scrimming against each other. Maybe have a small league or some tournaments. This game is very tactical, however with these tips I found myself to get around just fine with running and gunning. I realize this game is still very new and the whole genre is new to many, including myself. But rocking a scope on, I often just kill clueless enemies over and over again until they disconnect. It is both unpleasant for them and for me.
Okay, I don't understand that. I don't even see this Rexar guy. I think he's cheating. I actually think he's cheating.
I don't want to turn away new players from the PvP in this game, but I also want to play it my way, right? And that's exactly why I'm doing this tutorial. I think the individual skill ceiling in this game isn't particularly high, and we can very soon reach the top of it. And that's when I think the actual tactics will come into play. Using smokes to deny the prolonged ranges of scopes, throwing incendiary grenades into positions you wanna deny, using flashes to clear rooms, or even suppressive fire if you know someone is behind a cover pillar so that your teammate can cross. This game really does punish the runners and gunners. Players can hear you, even see the objects you pass by, and the waves coming from beneath your character. Also, after running, your aim is worse, so the game does well in punishing the players to make them be more tactical, but it is just not needed yet. So I really hope I helped at least some of you out there. And I also hope there is more people out there looking to form a team and scrim against other teams. If so, then let me know down in the comments. Let me know if you would like to see some more of the Thunder tier content, like more tips and tricks, or me going solo or with bots or with friends through a mission, or if you would want to see a full PvP match from my view. Let me know. Thank you very much for watching and have a good one.